play?
Let's play I Dare You To.
Oh, no, Josie. That game is for boys.
Girls can play it, too. Ruby Gillis, I dare you to hop on your left foot down the path without stopping.
Oh, that's easy. There. My turn. Josie Pye, I dare you to walk along the top of that board fence.
I can do that all right, Anne Shirley. See? I have perfect balance.
Do come down from there, Josie.
There. I told you I could do it.
I don't think it's such a wonderful thing to walk a little low board fence. I knew a girl in Marysville who could walk the ridgepole of a roof.
I don't believe it. I don't believe anybody could walk a ridgepole. You couldn't anyhow.
Couldn't I?
Then I dare you, Anne Shirley. I dare you to climb up there and walk the ridgepole of Mr. Barry's kitchen roof.
Don't you do it, Anne.
You'll fall off and be killed.
Never mind, Josie Pye. It isn't fair to dare anyone to do anything dangerous.
I must do it. My honor is at stake. I shall walk that ridgepole or perish in the attempt.
Oh.
If I am killed, Diana, you are to have my pearl bead ring.
Oh,
She'll never do it.
I wish she'd come down.
Look, she's up there. She's walking, Diana. She's walking the ridgepole.
Please come down, Anne.
How about that, Josie Pye?
Anne, are you killed? Oh, Anne, dear, speak. Just one word to me and tell me if you are killed.
No, Diana, I am not killed, but I think I am rendered unconscious.
Oh, Anne, at least you're still breathing.
Here comes your father, Diana.
What's going on, girls? And Shirley, have you hurt yourself?
My ankle. Oh, Mr. Barry, please take me home. Aren't you very sorry for me, Marilla? I haven't merely sprained my ankle, I've broken it.
It was your own fault.
But what would you have done if you had been dared to walk a ridgepole?
I'd have stayed on good firm ground and let them dare away. Such absurdity.
But you have such strength of mind, Marilla. I felt that I couldn't bear Josie Pye's scorn. She would have crowed over me all my life. Now look at me. By the time I can walk again, Miss Stacy won't be new anymore. And Gilbert, everybody will get ahead of me in class. Oh, I am an afflicted mortal. Please don't be cross with me, Marilla.
There. I'm not cross.
Isn't it fortunate I have an imagination? What do people without imaginations do when they break their bones, Marilla? There, Marilla. If I can limp, that means I can go back to school.
The doctor says next week, Anne.
Everybody has been so good and kind. Miss Stacy has been to see me 14 times. Isn't that something to be proud of? And she never told me it was my own fault and that she hoped it would make me a better person, as Mrs. Lynde always says when she comes to visit. Even Josie Pye came. I received her politely. If I had been killed, she would have had to carry a dark burden of remorse all her life. And Diana has been over every day. She agrees with me that Miss Stacy is perfectly sweet, a true kindred spirit.
Well, there's one thing plain to be seen, Anne. Your fall off the Berry roof hasn't injured your tongue at all. Pass the butter, Anne, and stop daydreaming.
Sorry, Marilla. I was thinking of the Christmas concert Miss Stacy is organizing. We've all been asked to perform something.
I don't approve of children getting up concerts. It makes them vain and forward and distracts them from their lessons.
But we're all rehearsing so hard. We're to have a tableau. Faith, Hope, and Charity. Diana and Ruby and I. I'm to be Hope, with my hands clasped so, and my eyes uplifted. I'm going to practice my lines in the garret. Don't be alarmed if you hear me groaning, Matthew. They require some heart-rending groans.
Well, no, that's fine.
I'll be heartily glad when all this fuss is over. You're simply good for nothing just now, with your head stuffed full of dialogues and groans and tableaux.
What do you think, Matthew?
Well, now, I reckon it's going to be a pretty good concert, and I expect you'll do your part fine.
To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit, Mr. Cuthbert? There's nothing wrong at Green Gables, I hope.
No, Mrs. Lynn, not wrong exactly. This afternoon I was watching Anne with the other girls, practicing for the concert. It's just the other girls all had these dresses, real pretty dresses, and Anne looked kind of drab next to them.
I've noticed that myself, Mr. Cuthbert. I've ached to tell Marilla so a dozen times, but she thinks she knows more about child-rearing than I do. Well, I'm happy that you agree with me. You think Anne should have a pretty dress as well?
Well, now, seeing as it's Christmas next week...
Perhaps you'd like me to make it up for her, too. Seeing that if Marilla was to make it, Anne would probably get wind of it. No, it isn't a mite of trouble. I like sewing. I'll make it to fit my niece, for she and Anne are as like as two peas, as far as figure goes.
Well, now, I'm much obliged, Mrs. Lynde, and I don't know. I think they make the sleeves different nowadays. If it wouldn't be asking too much...
Puffs? Of course, I'll make it up in the very latest fashion.
Oh, thank you. I'll see myself out. Goodbye.
Well, now, to think of Matthew Cuthbert taking notice of Anne's dresses. That man is waking up after being asleep for 60 years.
Merry Christmas, Marilla.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Matthew.
Merry Christmas, Anne.
I'm so glad it's white. Any other Christmas doesn't seem real.
Well, now, is this real enough for you?
Why, Matthew, that dress, is that for me?
That's a Christmas present for you, Anne. What's the matter, Anne? Don't you like it? Oh, well, no.
Like it? Oh, Matthew, it's perfectly exquisite. Oh, I can never thank you enough. Look at those sleeves. Oh, this must be a happy dream.
Well, let's have breakfast. I must say, Anne, I don't think you needed the dress, but since Matthew has got it for you, see that you take good care of it.
I don't see how I'm going to eat breakfast. Breakfast seems so commonplace. I'd rather feast my eyes on that dress. Oh, look, there's Diana coming down the slope.
And Shirley, who gave you permission to go scampering out into the snow?
Merry Christmas, Diana! Oh, I have something splendid to show you. Matthew has given me the loveliest dress with such sleeves.
I have something more for you. Here, this box. And Josephine sent it. The daintiest pair of kid slippers you ever saw.
Oh, Diana, this is too much. I must be dreaming.
I call it providential. They're perfect for the concert tonight.
Oh, of course.
Wind and weather, fa la 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 la.
Anne, will you allow me to wish you a Merry Christmas?
Whatever you do or say is a matter of complete indifference to me, Gilbert Blythe.
That's a new dress, isn't it?
Yes, Matthew got it. I've no wish to discuss it with you.
All right, Anne. Have a good holiday.
Look at the stars in the night sky, Diana. Every single one seems to be winking down at us. Oh, hasn't it been a brilliant evening?
Yes, indeed. And wasn't the boys' dialogue fine? Gilbert Blythe was just splendid. Anne, I do think it's awful the way you treat Gilbert.
He mortally insulted me, Diana. It was my first week at school, and he held the color of my hair up to ridicule.
Well, I saw something tonight that will make you feel differently.
What?
When you ran off the platform after the fairy dialogue, one of your roses fell out of your hair. Gilbert picked it up and put it in his breast pocket. There now. Isn't that the most romantic thing ever?
It's nothing to me what that person does. I simply never waste a thought on him, Diana.
Has she gone off to bed?
She was asleep as soon as her head hit the pillow.
I guess our Anne did as well as any of them.
Yes, she did. She's a bright child, Matthew. And she looked real nice, too. Anyhow, I was proud of Anne tonight, although I'm not going to tell her so.
Well, now, I was proud of her, too, and I did tell her so, before she went upstairs. We must see what we can do for her, Marilla. I guess you'll need something more than Avonlea School by and by.
You mean the Queen's Academy? That costs money, Matthew.
We'll find the money.
I'm just waiting for the day when she'll behave with a bit more sense. We're neither of us going to be around forever.
Well, no, we haven't done badly so far.
I know, but maybe Rachel Lynde was right. Whatever made us think we could bring up a child like Anne?
Why is the house so dark, Marilla?
Oh, that's something I intend to ask Miss Anne Shirley. I told her to be sure and have tea ready by 5 o'clock. I got back from the Ladies' Aid meeting to find the fire out and no food prepared.
Well, I hope nothing's happened.
Oh, she's gadding off somewhere with Diana, writing stories or some such tomfoolery, and never thinking once about her chores. I don't care if Miss Stacy does say she's the brightest child she ever knew. Her head is still filled with nonsense. But there, now, I'm talking about Anne the way Rachel Lynde does. Anne's got her faults, goodness knows. But Rachel Lynde would pick faults in the angel Gabriel himself if he lived in Avonlea.
No, that's true.
Just the same, Anne had no business leaving the house like this. I never knew her to be so disobedient and untrustworthy before.
Well, now, perhaps you're judging her too hasty, Marilla. Don't call her untrustworthy until you're sure she has disobeyed you. Maybe it can all be explained. Anne's a great hand at explaining.
Of course, you'll take her part, Matthew Cuthbert. But I'm bringing her up, not you. Mercy on us. Anne Shirley, have you been up here in the dark all this time? Are you sick then?
No, but please, Marilla, go away and don't look at me. I'm in the depths of despair. I don't care who gets head of the class or writes the best composition. Little things like that are of no importance now because I don't suppose I'll ever be able to go anywhere again. My career is closed.
Did anyone ever hear the like? Anne Shirley, whatever is the matter with you? What have you done? Well, get right up this minute and tell me. This minute, I say. There now. Now, what is it?
Look at my hair, Marilla.
Anne, what have you done to your hair? Why, it's green.
Yes, it's green. I thought nothing could be as bad as red hair, but now I know it's 10 times worse to have green hair. Oh, Marilla, you little know how utterly wretched I am.
No, then what did you do to your hair?
I dyed it.
Dyed it? Dyed your hair? And surely didn't you know it was a wicked thing to do?
Yes, I knew it was a little wicked, but I thought it was worth being a little wicked to get rid of red hair. I counted the cost, Marilla. Besides, I meant to be extra good in other ways to make up for it.
Well, if I decided it was worthwhile to dye my hair, I'd have at least dyed it a decent color.
Oh, but I didn't mean to dye it green. He said it would turn my hair a beautiful raven black. He positively assured me it would. Oh, how could I doubt his word, Marilla?
Who said? Who are you talking about?
The peddler that was here this afternoon. I bought the dye from him.
And Shirley, how often have I told you never to let one of those Italians in the house?
I didn't let him in the house. I remembered what you told me, so I looked at his things on the porch. Besides, he wasn't Italian. He was German. He had a box full of interesting things, and he said he was working hard to make enough money to bring his family out of Germany. Oh, he spoke so feelingly about them that it touched my heart. Well, then I saw the bottle of hair dye. The peddler said it was warranted to dye any hair a beautiful raven black. The temptation was irresistible, but the price was 75 cents and I only had 50 cents, but the peddler said, seeing it was me, he'd sell it for 50, and that was just giving it away. As soon as he left, I came up here and applied it. I used up the whole bottle. And oh, Marilla, when I saw the dreadful color it turned my hair, I repented of being wicked, I can tell you. And I've been repenting ever since.
Well, I hope you repent to good purpose and remember where your vanity has led you. I suppose the first thing to do is to give your hair a good washing.
Marilla, I've been washing it over and over all afternoon. Washing doesn't get the greenness out. I can never live this down. And people have pretty well forgotten my other mistakes. The liniment cake and setting Diana drunk and flying into a temper with Mrs. Lynde. But they'll never forget this. How Josie Pye will laugh. Marilla, I'm the unhappiest girl in Prince Edward Island.
That bottle obviously contained fast dye. Your hair must be cut off. Well, you can't go out with it looking like that.
Please cut it off at once then and have it over. This is such an unromantic affliction. The girls in books lose their hair in fevers or sell it to get money for some good deed. But there is nothing comforting in having all your hair cut off because you've dyed it a dreadful color, is there?
Oh, dry your eyes now while I fetch the scissors.
I never thought I was vain about my hair, but now I know I was in spite of its being red because it's so long and thick and curly. I expect something will happen to my nose next.
I'm not sure I can walk to my desk with my hair cropped like this, Diana.
Don't be silly, Anne. No one will even notice.
And Shirley, you look like a perfect scarecrow.
For your information, Josie Pye, short hair on girls is the latest thing in Paris and New York.
Wasn't it nice of Gilbert to put Josie Pye in her place, Anne?
He needn't have bothered, Diana. I mean to devote all my energies to being good and clever. I shall never try to be beautiful again.
Of course you must be Elaine, Anne. I could never have the courage to float downstream.
Oh, nor I. I don't mind floating down when there's 2 or 3 of us in the boat and we can sit up. Oh, it's fun then. But to lie down and pretend to be dead? Oh, I just couldn't. I'd die of fright.
And I couldn't keep still. I'd be popping up every minute to see if I wasn't drifting too far out. And you know, Anne, how that would spoil the effect.
I'm not afraid to float downstream, and I'd love to be Elaine. But Tennyson says she has such lovely golden hair. A red-headed person cannot be a lily maid.
But your hair is ever so much darker than it used to be before you cut it.
Oh, do you really think so? Do you think it could be called auburn now, Diana?
Yes, and I think it's real pretty.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will be Elaine then. Ruby, you must be King Arthur.
All right.
Jane will be Guinevere.
Yes.
And Diana must be Lancelot. Hand me that old shawl of your mother's, Diana. That shall be my shroud.
Oh, she does look really dead. Do you suppose it's right to act like this? Mrs. Lynde says that all play acting is abominably wicked.
Ruby, you shouldn't talk about Mrs. Lynde. It spoils the effect because this is hundreds of years before Mrs. Lynde was born.
Anne is right. Diana, you say, sister, farewell forever. And Ruby, you say, farewell, sweet sister.
All right.
Now, push the boat off.
Sister, farewell forever!
Farewell, sweet sister. I hope she'll be all right out there. Oh, quiet, Jane. Now you're spoiling the romantic effect.
Then murmured Arthur, place me in the barge, and to the barge they came. There those 3 queens put forth their hands and took the king and wept. But she that rose the tallest of them...
Can you see the boat from here, Diana?
There it is! She's floating under the bridge.
The boat? Diana! It's sinking!
Anne! Sit up! Anne! Anne! What? Your boat! It's sinking! Row to shore! I can't! I've forgotten the oars!
Oh, we better run for help!
Stay there, Anne! We'll fetch help! I'll try and make for those trees!
She'll drown! I just know she'll drown!
Don't you dare say that, Ruby Gillis!
Where have they all gone to? I can't hang on to this tree stump forever.
thank goodness. There's a dory coming round the bend.
Anne? Aunt Shirley?
Oh, no. It can't be. Gilbert Blythe. I shan't look at him.
Aunt Shirley, how on earth did you get there? Oh, all right, then don't answer if it suits you, but you'd better take my hand. What happened, Anne?
If you must know, we were playing Elaine, and I had to drift down to Camelot in the barge. I mean the rowboat. It began to leak, so I had to cling to those trees. Will you please be kind enough to row me to the landing?
I'll row you anywhere you like.
I'm very much obliged to you.
Anne, look here. I know we got off on the wrong foot that first day at school, but that was ages ago. Why can't we be friends?
I shall never be friends with you, Gilbert Blythe, and I don't want to be.
All right. I'll never ask you to be friends again, Aunt Shirley, and I don't care either.
Oh, Anne, we thought you were drowned, and we felt like murderers because we made you be Elaine, and we couldn't find my parents or Marilla or Matthew, and then Ruby Gillis had hysterics. Oh, Anne, how did you escape?
I climbed onto a tree stump, and Gilbert Blythe came along in his dory and brought me to land.
Oh, Anne, how splendid of him. Why, it's so romantic.
Of course you'll speak to Gilbert now that he's rescued you.
Of course I won't, and I don't ever want to hear the word romantic again.
Adrift on the river in a boat without oars. Oh, will you ever have any sense, Anne Shirley?
Oh, yes, I think I will, Marilla. Each mistake has helped to cure me of some great shortcoming. Jumping on old Miss Barry's bed cured me of impulsiveness. The liniment cake mistake cured me of carelessness in cooking. Dyeing my hair cured me of vanity. And today's mistake is going to cure me of being too romantic. I have come to the conclusion that it is no use trying to be romantic in Avonlea. So you will soon see a great improvement in me, Marilla.
I'm sure I hope so.
Don't give up all your romance, Anne. A little of it is a good thing. Not too much, of course, but keep a little of it, Anne. Keep a little of it.
Come on now, get a move on. Anne! Isn't this evening just like a purple dream, Diana?
It's a very fine evening, but oh, I have such news, Anne. Mother had a letter from Aunt Josephine today, and she's invited you and me to town next Tuesday to stay with her and see the exhibition. There!
Oh, Diana, do you really mean it? Oh, but I'm afraid Marilla won't let me. She thinks I gad about far too much.
We'll get Mother to ask Marilla. She'll be more likely to let you go then, and if she does, we'll have the time of our lives, Anne.
Diana, you never told me. Your Aunt Josephine's parlor. It's like a palace.
I'd no idea it was so grand. I just wish Josie Pye could see this. She puts on such airs about her mother's parlor.
Oh, velvet carpet and silk curtains. I've dreamed of such things, Diana. But do you know, I don't believe I feel very comfortable with them. There are so many splendid things in this room that there is no scope for imagination. That is one consolation when you're poor. There are so many more things you can imagine.
Welcome, girls. Welcome to Charlottetown.
It's lovely to be here, Aunt Josephine.
Good. So, you've come to see me at last, Miss Anne Shirley. Oh, mercy, child, how you've grown. You're taller than I am, I do declare. And you're ever so much better looking than you used to be. But I dare say you know that without being told.
Indeed, I didn't, Miss Barry. I know I'm not so freckled as I used to be, so I've much to be thankful for, but I really hadn't dared to hope there was any other improvement.
What did you think of the performance, girls?
Oh, Miss Barry, I can't tell you how I feel. That lady's singing was beyond description. I don't see how I'm ever to return to common life again.
Perhaps if we make for the restaurant across the street and get you some ice cream, it might help.
Ice cream? Oh, thank you, Aunt Josephine. Do you know, Aunt Josephine, I believe I was born for city life.
Is that so, Diana?
How lovely to be able to sit in a crowded cafe at 11 o'clock at night eating ice cream.
Is this your idea of paradise, Anne girl?
I don't think so. I mean, it's nice to go to brilliant restaurants once in a while, but as a regular thing, well, I'd rather be in my East Gable room at 11, sound asleep, but still knowing that outside the stars are shining and the wind is blowing across the brook.
Sounds like you're mightily attached to your Green Gables.
Now that I'm away from it, Miss Barry, I realize that I am.
Well, I hope you girls have enjoyed yourselves.
Indeed we have, Aunt Josephine.
And you, Anne girl?
I've enjoyed every minute of it. It was most imaginative of you to have invited us.
Goodbye, Aunt Josephine.
Goodbye to you both. I thought Marilla Cuthbert was an old fool when I'd heard she'd adopted a girl out of an orphan asylum. But I guess she didn't make such a mistake after all.
Oh, it's so good to be home. I could kiss everything, even the clock. Oh, Marilla, a broiled chicken. You don't mean to say you cooked that for me?
Oh, I knew you'd be hungry after such a drive and need something real appetizing.
Well, now, tell us about it.
Oh, Matthew, Marilla, the exhibition itself was splendid. Josie Pye took first prize for knitted lace, and Mr. Bell took first prize for a pig. Diana said she thought it was ridiculous for a Sunday school superintendent to take a prize in pigs, but I don't see why. Mrs. Lynde was there. She got first prize for homemade butter and cheese. I never knew how much I really liked her until I saw her familiar face among all those strangers. There were thousands of people, and we saw a man go up in a balloon and a man selling fortunes. Miss Barry gave Diana and me 10 cents each to have our fortunes told. Mine said that I would marry a dark-complexioned, wealthy man and I would go across water to live. I looked carefully at all the dark men I saw after that, but I didn't care much for any of them.
Well, I'm glad you're back, I must say. It's been fearful lonesome here without you, and I never put in 4 longer days.
I've had a splendid time, and I feel that it marks an epoch in my life. But the best of it all was the coming home.
Anne, would you come down here, please?
What is it, Marilla? Oh, good afternoon, Miss Stacy.
Hello, Anne. I suppose you're wondering why I'm here.
I expect it's about Ben-Hur. I meant to tell you honestly, Marilla, but I forgot.
Ben-Hur?
Miss Stacy caught me reading Ben-Hur yesterday when I should have been studying my Canadian history. I was simply wild to know how the chariot race turned out. Anyway, Miss Stacy caught me and kept me in at recess, and I guess she thought you ought to know about it, Marilla.
That's not why I'm here, Anne. I had entirely forgiven you.
Oh, Ben-Hur, indeed. You've no business to be taking storybooks to school. Anyway, Miss Stacy is here to have a serious talk about your future.
I'm organizing a special after-school class for my senior students interested in taking the entrance examination to Queen's Academy.
Miss Stacy wants to know if you'd like to join it, Anne, to go to Queen's and train as a school teacher.
Oh, Miss Stacy, Marilla, it's been the dream of my life. Ever since Ruby Gillis and Jane Andrews began talking of taking the entrance exam. But won't it be dreadfully expensive?
Matthew and I will find the money somehow. I believe in a girl being fitted to earn her own living. Oh, you'll always have a home here at Green Gables, Anne. But there's no telling what may happen.
Marilla, I promise I'll do my best to be a credit to you and Matthew. You have given me a purpose in life, something I've always longed for.
Well, you've hardly touched your supper, Anne.
I'm sorry, Marilla. It's just that I feel I have tasted the bitterness of death.
What exactly does that mean?
Diana isn't in the Queen's class. Mr. and Mrs. Barry have decided that she shouldn't take the entrance examination.
Well, now, the Barrys haven't taken Diana out of school. You still see her every day.
That's true. As Mrs. Lynde would say, we can't have things perfect in this imperfect world.
Exactly. Now, finish your potatoes.
I think the Queen's class is going to be interesting. Ruby Gillis says she will only teach for 2 years, then she intends to be married. Jane Andrews says she will devote her whole life to teaching and never marry because a husband won't pay you anything, and growls if you ask for a share in the egg and butter money. Mrs. Lynde says that Jane's father is a perfect old crank and meaner than second skimmings.
Well, that's enough gossip about Mr. Andrews.
Sorry, Marilla. Josie Pye says she is just going to college for education's sake because she won't have to earn her own living. She says, of course, it is different with orphans who are living on charity. They have to hustle.
Honestly, the tongue on that Josie Pye.
Moody Spurgeon is going to be a minister, but really the thought of it makes me laugh. Moody is so funny-looking with that big fat face and his ears sticking out like flaps.
So much for your determination to be charitable.
You're right, Marilla. Perhaps Moody will be more intellectual-looking when he grows up. Charlie Sloane says he's going into politics, but Mrs. Lynde says he'll never succeed at that because the Sloanes are all honest people, and it's only rascals that get on in politics nowadays.
What is Gilbert Blythe going to be?
Gilbert who?
Gilbert Blythe. He must be in the Queen's class. You and he are always competing for head of the school.
He's going to Queen's, but I don't happen to know what Gilbert Blythe's ambition in life is, assuming he has any.
Hello, Rachel. What brings you here?
You weren't at the Ladies' Aid on Thursday. It's not like you to miss a meeting, Marilla.
Matthew had a bad spell with his heart in the morning, and I didn't feel like leaving him. He's all right again now, but he takes them spells oftener than he used to, and I'm anxious about him.
What does the doctor say?
Oh, you know, he must be careful to avoid excitement. That's easy enough. Matthew doesn't go about looking for excitement, and never did, but he's not to do any heavy work either, and you might as well tell Matthew not to breathe as not to work. Well, come and lay off your things, Rachel. You'll stay to tea?
Well, seeing as you're so pressing, perhaps I might as well stay. I must say Anne has turned out a real smart girl. She must be a great help to you.
She's real steady and reliable now. I used to be afraid she'd never get over her featherbrain ways, but she has. I wouldn't be afraid to trust her with anything now.
Then I don't see why you're letting her traipse off to Queen's next year, seeing as her proper place is here with you in the kitchen.
She's one of the brightest in her class, Rachel. I can't hold her back now.
Hold her back? She's an asylum girl, Marilla. You and Matthew took her in out of the goodness of your hearts, expecting her to be grateful and know her place, not turn herself into a blue stocking over at the Queen's Academy.
With the greatest respect, Rachel, I don't see what business it is of yours what we decide for Anne's future.
Have it your own way, then, Marilla. None of my children went to college, and they turned out down-to-earth, practical people. But those are qualities that obviously don't interest you.
Isn't it time you put out the light, Anne?
I was just saying hello to my books again. I've had a perfectly wonderful summer, but now that the final term is upon me, I feel like studying with might and main.
As long as you don't overdo it.
I'll try not to. Marilla, I want to ask you something. I do really want to be charitable and gracious, and when I'm with you or Miss Stacy, I want it more than ever.
I'm glad to hear it, Anne.
The trouble is, when I'm with Rachel Lynde, I feel desperately wicked, as if I wanted to go and do the very thing she tells me I oughtn't to do. Do you think it's because I'm really bad and unregenerate?
If you are, I guess I am too, Anne. For Rachel Lynde often has that very effect on me. I sometimes think she'd have more of a good influence if she didn't keep nagging people to do right. There should be a special commandment about nagging. But there, I shouldn't talk so. Rachel is a good Christian woman who always means well.
I'm glad you feel the same. Mrs. Lynde doesn't approve of you allowing me to study for Queen's, does she?
Oh, she's old-fashioned about some things, and fortunately for you, it's not her decision. Now get a good night's sleep before you throw yourself into the fray.
Oh, Marilla, what a perfectly marvelous way of putting it.
Marilla? What is it?
I was thinking about Anne. She's getting to be such a big girl, and she'll be away from us at Queen's next winter. I'll miss her terrible.
She'll be able to come home often. The branch railroad will be built to Carmody by that time.
It won't be the same thing as having her here all the time. But there. Men can't understand these things. Did you finish the dishes, Anne?
Nearly, Marilla.
You don't chatter half as much as you used to, nor use half as many big words. What's come over you?
I don't know. I don't want to talk as much. And somehow I don't need to use big words anymore. There's so much to learn and do and think. Besides, Miss Stacy says the short ones are stronger and better.
You've only 2 more months before the entrance examination. Do you think you'll be able to get through?
I wish it was all over, Marilla. It haunts me. Sometimes I wake up in the night and wonder what I'll do if I don't pass.
Why, go back to school next September and try again.
Oh, I don't believe I'd have the heart for it. It would be such a disgrace to fail, especially if the others passed. And I get so nervous in an examination that I'm likely to make a mess of it.
Just do your best. That's all Matthew and I expect.
It does seem as if this is the end of everything, doesn't it, Anne?
You oughtn't to feel half as badly as I do, Diana. You'll be back again after the summer, but I've left the dear old school forever. Oh, no, I haven't. I'll be back next year. This is one of the times I know I'm not going to pass the entrance.
Oh, why, you came out splendidly in the exams Miss Stacy gave.
Yes, but those exams didn't make me nervous. When I think of the real thing, you can't imagine what a horrid, cold, fluttery feeling comes round my heart.
I do wish I were going into town with you. Wouldn't we have a perfectly elegant time? But I suppose you'll have to cram in the evenings.
No, Miss Stacy made us promise not to open a book at all. She says we're to go out walking. Anyway, it was kind of your Aunt Josephine to ask me to stay at Beechwood while I'm in town.
You'll write to me while you're there, won't you?
I'll write Tuesday night and tell you how the first day goes.
I'll be haunting the post office on Wednesday.
Dearest Diana, here it is, Tuesday night, and I'm writing this in the library at Beechwood. Last night I was horribly lonesome all alone in my room and wished you were with me. I had promised Miss Stacy I wouldn't cram, but it was very hard to keep from opening my history book. This morning Miss Stacy came for me, and we went to the academy, calling for Jane and Ruby and Josie on our way. Josie said I looked as if I hadn't slept a wink, and she didn't believe I was strong enough to stand the grind of the teacher's course, even if I did get through. There are times even yet when I don't feel that I've made any great headway in learning to like Josie Pye. When we were assigned to our rooms, Miss Stacy had to leave us. Then a man came in and began distributing the English exam sheets. My hands grew cold then, and my head fairly whirled around as I picked it up. Just for one awful moment, Diana, I felt exactly as I did 4 years ago when I asked Marilla if I might stay at Green Gables. And then everything cleared in my mind. My heart began beating again. I forgot to say that it had stopped altogether, for I knew I could do something with that paper anyhow. In the afternoon, the history paper was pretty hard, and I got dreadfully mixed up on the dates. Oh, Diana, if only the geometry examination was over. I know Mrs. Lynde would say that the sun will go on rising and setting whether I fail in geometry or not, but I think I'd rather it didn't go on if I failed. Yours devotedly, Anne.
Anne! Anne! Come to the window!
Diana?
Anne, you've passed! Passed the very first! You and Gilbert Blythe both! You're tied! But your name is first! Oh, I'm so proud!
What about the others?
Everyone's passed! Although Moody Spurgeon got a conditional in history. Josie Pye just scraped through with 3 marks to spare, but she's bound to put on as many airs as if she'd led. Oh, Anne, what does it feel like to see your name at the head of a pass list?
I'm just dazzled inside. I never dreamed of this. Yes, I did too, just once. I let myself think once, what if I should come out first? But it seems so vain and presumptuous to think I could lead the whole of Prince Edward Island. Now I must tell Matthew.
He's over in the orchard with Marilla and Mrs. Lynde.
Matthew! Marilla! I've passed and I'm first. Or tied for first. I'm not vain, but I am thankful.
Well, now, I always said it. I knew you could beat 'em all easy.
You've done pretty well, I must say, Anne.
I guess she has done well.
thank you, Mrs. Lind.
Far be it from me to be backward in saying it. You're a credit to your friends, Anne, and we're all proud of you.
Here, Anne. I hear that Jane and Ruby and Josie have got evening dresses, as they call them, and I don't mean you shall be left behind. Oh. I got Miss Stacy to help me pick it in town last week.
Oh, Marilla, it's just lovely. Oh, I don't believe you ought to be so kind to me. It's making it harder every day for me to go away.
Well, it's a big step, training to be a teacher.
Oh, you're crying. Oh, Marilla, don't cry. Is it Matthew? Are you worried about his dizzy spells?
Matthew needs to slow down. That's what the doctor says. No. I'm feeling weepy about you. You look so tall and stylish now, and so different altogether. As if you didn't belong in Avonlea at all. And I just get lonesome thinking about it.
Marilla, I'm not a bit changed, not really. I'm only just pruned down and branched out. The real me back here is just the same. It will make a bit of difference where I go or how much I change outwardly. At heart, I shall always be your dear little Anne, who will love you and Matthew and dear Green Gables more and better every day of her life. Jane! Oh, it's good to see a familiar face.
Anne Shirley! Oh, Ruby and Josie and I were looking for you at orientation.
I wasn't there. I'm doing the first class license.
The first class? But that means you do the course in 1 year instead of 2, and they work you much harder, Anne.
I know, but Miss Stacy advised me to do it. She thinks I need a challenge.
But that means we won't have the same classes. Who else from Avonlea is going for the first class?
Only me and Gilbert Blythe.
Gilbert Blythe? That's not much good. The pair of you haven't exchanged a word in years.
And I don't intend to start to now, even if all my other classmates are strangers.
Oh, we better dash. Good luck, Anne.
See you, Jane. I'd forgotten what it was like to be a new girl. All the others seemed to know each other. Oh, there's Gilbert Blythe, his head in a book already. I suppose he's made up his mind to win the gold medal. What a splendid chin he has. I never noticed it before. This is not what I expected college to be like. Coming back on my own to this dismal little room with its faded wallpaper. When I think of my white room back in Green Gables, with sweet peas growing in the garden and the moonlight falling in the orchard, oh, I won't cry. It's silly and weak. Oh, there's the third tear splashing off my nose. I must think of something funny to stop them. But nothing's funny except old stories from Avonlea, and that only makes things worse. Oh, Josie Pye. Oh, I'm so glad you came up.
You've been crying, Anne Shirley. I suppose you're homesick. Some people have so little self-control in that respect. I've no intention of being homesick, I can tell you. Town's too jolly after that poky old Avonlea. Oh, you shouldn't cry, Anne. Your nose and eyes get red, and then you seem all red. And considering your hair...
Thanks for cheering me up, Josie.
Have you anything eatable around, Anne? I'm literally starving. Ah! I guess likely Marilla would load you up with cake. That's why I called round. Otherwise, I'd have gone to the park to hear the band play with Frank Stockley. He boards the same place I do, and he's a sport. He noticed you in the hall today and asked me who the red-haired girl was. I told him you were an orphan that the Cuthberts had adopted, and nobody knew very much about what you'd been before that.
May we come in, Anne?
Oh, Jane! Ruby! Oh, come in! Josie, pass round the cake, please.
I ought to be home studying for my Virgil. That horrid old professor gave us 20 lines to start on before tomorrow. But I couldn't settle down to study tonight.
Oh, me either. Not on the very first day.
Anne, methinks I see traces of tears. If you've been crying, do own up. It will restore my self-respect, for I was shedding tears freely before Ruby came along. This cake, it has a real heavenly flavor.
Oh, we missed you today in class, Anne, but I might have known that you and Gilbert would defect to the fast track.
I suppose you'll be trying for the gold medal.
Oh, it's far too early in the year to be thinking about medals.
Oh, that reminds me. Queen's is to get one of the Avery scholarships after all. Frank Stockley told me. His uncle's on the board of governors. What's an Avery scholarship? Oh, honestly, Ruby, don't you know anything? The Avery is awarded to the graduate who makes the highest mark in English literature.
It's worth $250 a year, which pays for 4 years' tuition at Redmond College.
I expect you've got your sights set on the Avery, Anne.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, admit it, Anne. Your face is getting very red just thinking of it.
Well, it would be something to be a Bachelor of Arts. I mean, Matthew would be so proud.
You've got the brains to take the Avery.
Unless Gilbert Blythe runs off with it.
Well, whoever wins it will be very lucky. But I'm not going to torment myself with thinking about it on our very first day.
I want to hear all the news, Anne.
The Avonlea set isn't doing too badly, Marilla. Ruby Gillis is counted the handsomest. Jane Andrews is head of everyone in domestic science. And Josie Pye is considered the sharpest-tongued of all the girls in either year.
What about Anne Shirley?
Oh, I'm happy enough. I'd never admit this to the others.
Go on.
I'm working very hard. There's this scholarship, the Avery.
I remember. The one to Redmond College.
I'm going to try to win it, Marilla. The only real competition is Gilbert Blythe. We're neck and neck in everything. Well, same as when we were 12 years old.
Oh, you seem to thrive on competition.
I suppose I do. One thing about Gilbert, he's a worthy foeman. Marilla, there's something bothering me, and I need to know the truth. Is Matthew still ailing?
He's not been well, Anne. There's no sense pretending otherwise. He's had some real bad spells with his heart, and he won't spare himself a mite. We've got a good hired man now, so I keep hoping Matthew'll kind of rest and get his strength back.
I'll try to encourage him. How is Mrs. Lynde?
Oh, Rachel Lynde, same as ever. Whenever I mention you, she rants on about how higher education unfits a woman for her true sphere.
Now that's what I like about Avonlea. Some things never change.
Speaking of Rachel Lynde reminds me, did you hear anything up in town about the Abbey Bank, Anne?
I heard it was shaky. Why?
Well, that's what Rachel was saying last week. Matthew is real worried. All our savings is in that bank, every penny. Old Mr. Abbey was a great friend of Father's, and Matthew said any bank with him at the head of it was good enough for anybody.
I suppose there's no sense panicking.
I suppose not.
It doesn't seem possible that the term is over. Last fall, it seemed so long to look forward to. A whole winter of studies and classes.
And here we are with the exams looming up next week. Ruby Gillis, I thought I told you not to mention those wretched exams. I'll mention them as much as I like, Josie Pye.
I lost 7 pounds in the last 2 weeks.
Jane, don't.
It's no use, Anne. I will worry. Worrying helps some. It seems as if you were doing something when you're worrying.
Oh, Jane's right. It would be dreadful to fail your first year after going to Queen's all winter and spending so much money. Oh, I don't care. If I don't pass this year, I'm coming back next. My father can afford it. Anne, Frank Stockley says that Professor Tremaine said Gilbert Blythe was sure to win the gold medal and that Emily Clay would likely win the Avery scholarship.
Thank you, Josie. Now look at that arch of pale green sky over those houses, and picture to yourselves what it must look like over the purple beech woods back home in Avonlea.
If we must find out our exam results, at least it's a lovely day for it. Anne, are you all right?
Another few minutes, Jane, and we'll know who won the gold medal and who the Avery.
Of course you'll win one of them anyhow.
I've no hope for the Avery, and I'm not going to march up to the bulletin board in front of everybody. I haven't the moral courage. I'm going straight to the girls' dressing room. You must read the announcements and then come and tell me, Jane.
Of course, if that's how you feel.
Jane, look!
The boys are carrying Gilbert Blythe down the steps on their shoulders.
That means Gilbert has won the gold medal and Emily Clay has got the scholarship.
Oh, there she is! There's Anne! 3 cheers for Anne Shirley, winner of the Avery!
I've won it! I've actually won it!
Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!
Well, congratulations, Anne.
The same to you, Gilbert.
Oh, Anne, I'm so proud. Isn't it splendid?
Matthew and Marilla will be so pleased.
As principal of the Queen's Academy, it gives me great pleasure to award the Avery Scholarship, which entitles the winner to 4 years' tuition leading to a Bachelor of Arts, to Anne Shirley.
Reckon you're glad we kept her, Marilla?
It's not the first time I've been glad. You like to rub things in, Matthew Cuthbert.
Oh, Diana, it's so good to be back at Green Gables. Those pointed firs coming out of the pink sky and the white orchard. And it's good to see you again, Diana.
We're all so proud of you. I suppose you won't be teaching school now that you've won the Avery.
No, I'm going to Redmond College in September. Doesn't it seem wonderful?
The Newbridge trustees have offered Jane Andrews their school already. Gilbert Blythe is going to teach too.
Gilbert? I thought he was going to Redmond.
His father can't afford to send him to college next year, so he means to earn his own way through. I expect he'll get the school here in Avonlea if Miss Stacy decides to leave.
It will be odd to be at Redmond without my chief rival.
Mind you, you've never had any time for Gilbert Blythe.
That's true, but he's been a useful enemy. Let me do that, Marilla.
Oh, don't be silly, Anne. You should be out enjoying the sunshine.
You look tired. You've been working too hard.
Oh, it's not the work. It's my head. I have a pain so often now, behind the eyes. Dr. Spencer's been fussing with glasses, but they don't do me any good.
There must be something you can do.
Oh, there's a distinguished oculist coming to the island the last of June, and the doctor says I must see him. I guess I'll have to. I can't read or sew with any comfort now.
Promise me you'll see that oculist, Marilla.
Oh, you go out and enjoy yourself. All I need is a bit of rest.
Whoa! Up there! Up! Whoa! Get up there!
Matthew!
There you are, Anne. Have you been having a good day in the open air?
It's been glorious. And the best part is that sunset through the gaps in the hills.
That's my favorite part of the day, too.
You and Marilla are a fine pair.
Are we?
I mean, the way you both work so hard. Why won't you take things easier?
Well, no, I can't seem to. It's only that I'm getting old, Anne, and keep forgetting it. But I've always worked pretty hard, and I'd rather drop in harness.
If I had been the boy you sent for, I'd be able to help you so much now and spare you in 100 ways.
Well, no. I'd rather have you than a dozen boys, Anne. Just remember that. Rather than a dozen boys. I guess it wasn't a boy that took the Avery Scholarship, was it? It was a girl. My girl. My girl that I'm proud of.
Oh, run for the doctor, quick!
Oh, here comes Rachel Lynde. Mrs. Lynde.
What, child?
Matthew's collapsed.
Loosen his collar.
Oh, run for the doctor, Anne.
Oh, Marilla, I don't think we can do anything for him.
Mrs. Lynde, you can't think Matthew is...
Child, yes, I'm afraid of it. Look at his face. When you've seen that look as often as I have, you'll know what it means.
No, Matthew, no. Please wake up, Matthew. Please wake up.
Diana? My father has spoken with the doctor, Anne. It was the sudden shock that killed him. He was reading in the newspaper about the Abbey Bank.
The Abbey Bank?
Haven't you heard? It failed yesterday.
Matthew and Marilla had all their savings in that bank.
That's what Father was saying. Anne, dear, would you like to have me stay with you tonight?
Thank you, Diana. I think you won't misunderstand me when I say that I want to be alone. I'm not afraid. I haven't been alone 1 minute since it happened, and I want to be. I want to be quite silent and quiet and try to realize it. I can't realize it.
I think I understand. You know where I am if you need me.
Marilla, are you still up?
Oh, it'll be many nights before I get myself to sleep.
I'm worried, Marilla. I can't cry. I loved him so much, yet I'm unable to cry. Even when I think of his smiling face last night, and I hear his voice saying, my girl that I'm proud of.
Oh, there. Don't cry so, dearie. He'd always been such a good, kind brother to me, but God knows best.
Oh, Marilla, what will we do without him?
We've got each other, Anne. I don't know what I'd do if you weren't here. Oh, Anne, I know I've been kind of strict and harsh with you, but you mustn't think I didn't love you as well as Matthew did.
Oh, you don't have to explain, Marilla.
No, I want to tell you now when I can. It's never been easy for me to say things out of my heart. I love you as dear as if you were my own flesh and blood. And you've been my joy and comfort ever since you came to Green Gables.
Know something, Miss Stacy? I think you have the best garden in Avonlea.
Don't let Rachel Lynde hear you say that, Anne.
Oh, I won't. Oh, I laughed. That's the first time I've really laughed since Matthew's funeral.
Your interest in life is returning, Anne. I'll bet Matthew is pleased as punch about that, looking down from heaven.
I hope he has roses like these in heaven. Oh, I must go now. Marilla is all alone and she gets lonely at twilight. Miss Stacy sends her best regards, Marilla.
I'm glad you've started visiting the people you like best, Anne.
Did anyone come by while I was out?
Only Dr. Spencer. He says that the specialist will be in town tomorrow, and he insists I must go in and have my eyes examined.
Dr. Spencer is right.
What news of your friends, Anne? Is Josie Pye going to teach?
No, she's returning to Queen's next year. Jane and Ruby are going to teach. Miss Stacy says they've both got schools. Jane at Newbridge, and Ruby at some place up west.
Gilbert Blythe is going to teach too, isn't he?
Yes.
What a nice-looking young fellow he is. I saw him in church last Sunday. He looks a lot like his father did at the same age. John Blythe and I used to be real good friends. People called him my beau.
Oh, Marilla. And what happened? Why didn't you...
We had a quarrel. I wouldn't forgive him when he asked me to. I meant to after a while, but I was angry and I wanted to punish him first. He never came back. The Blythes were all mighty independent. But I've always kind of wished I'd forgiven him when I had the chance.
So you have had a bit of romance in your life, Marilla?
Oh, I suppose you might call it that. I'd forgotten it, but it all came back to me when I saw Gilbert last Sunday.
Marilla? Why are you sitting in the dark?
I guess I was thinking so hard I forgot to light the lamp.
Did you see the oculist today? What did he say?
He says that if I gave up all reading and sewing entirely, he thinks my headaches may be cured. But if I don't, he says I'll certainly be stone blind in 6 months. Blind, Anne. Just think of it.
Marilla, don't think of it. You know he has given you hope. If you're careful, you won't lose your sight altogether.
Oh, I don't call it much hope. What am I to live for if I can't read or sew? I might as well be blind. Or dead. Oh, but there, it's no good talking about it. If you get me a cup of tea, I'll be thankful.
I saw Mr. Sadler's horse and cart disappearing down the lane. What did he want, Marilla?
He heard that I was going to sell Green Gables. He wants to buy it.
Buy it? Buy Green Gables? Oh, Marilla, you don't really mean to sell it.
And I don't know what else is to be done. I may lose my sight altogether, and anyway, I'll not be fit to run things. Besides, every cent of our money went into that wretched bank that failed.
Where will you go?
Rachel Lynde advises me to sell the farm and board somewhere. With her, I suppose. I'm sorry you won't have a home to come to in your vacations, but I suppose you'll manage somehow.
You mustn't sell Green Gables, Marilla.
You can see for yourself, Anne, I can't stay here alone.
You won't have to stay here alone. I'll be with you. I'm not going to Redmond.
Not going to Redmond? What do you mean?
Oh, just what I said. I'm not going to take the scholarship. I'm going to teach. The trustees have promised the Avonlea School to Gilbert Blythe, but I can have the Carmody School. Mr. Blair told me so last night. So I can board home and drive myself over to Carmody in the warm weather. And even in winter I can come home on Fridays. Oh, I have it all planned out, Marilla. I'll read to you and keep you cheered up. We'll be real cozy and happy here.
Oh, Anne, I could get on real well if you were here. Oh, but I can't let you sacrifice yourself for me.
Nonsense! Nothing could be worse than giving up Green Gables.
But your ambitions...
I'm just as ambitious as ever. I mean to study here at home and take a college course all by myself.
Oh, you blessed girl. I feel as if you'd given me a new life.
Try to stay still, Marilla.
Can't be still in this chair. Why don't you sketch that tree?
Hello? Marilla? Anne?
Hello, Rachel.
Oh, I declare I'm glad to sit down. I've been on my feet all day. Well, Anne, I was real glad to hear you've given up your notion of going to college. I don't believe in girls cramming their heads full of Latin and Greek.
But I'm going to study Latin and Greek just the same, Mrs. Lynde. I'm going to take my Bachelor of Arts course right here at Green Gables.
And surely you'll kill yourself.
Well, I'll have lots of spare time in the long winter evenings. I'm going to teach over at Carmody, you know.
I don't know it. You're going to teach right here in Avonlea. The trustees have decided to give you the school.
Oh, no. Mrs. Lynde! Why, I
I thought they promised it to Gilbert Blythe.
So they did. But as soon as Gilbert heard that you had applied for it, he went to them and withdrew his application and recommended you. He said he was going to teach at White Sands, and the trustees have decided to take you.
I don't feel I ought to take it. I mean, I don't think I ought to let Gilbert make such a sacrifice for me.
You can't prevent him. He signed papers with White Sands trustees. Goodness, what does all that winking and blinking at the Barry Gable mean?
Diana is signaling for me to go over. You know we keep up the old custom. Excuse me while I run over and see what she wants.
There's a good deal of the child about her yet in some ways.
Oh, there's a good deal more of the woman about her in others.
Marilla Cuthbert, you are getting mellow.
What is it, Diana? What's happened?
There's someone here I think you would like to talk to, Anne. Now, you must excuse me.
What? Gilbert.
Hello, Anne.
Gilbert, I want to thank you for giving up the school for me. It was very good of you.
I was pleased to be able to help. Now, are we going to be friends after this? Have you finally forgiven me that rash mistake I made?
I forgave you that day by the pond landing, although I didn't know it. What a stubborn little goose I was.
We were born to be good friends, Anne Shirley. You've thwarted destiny long enough. I know we can help each other in many ways. You are going to keep up your studies, aren't you?
Yes, by correspondence course.
So am I. Come on. I'll walk you home.
Who is that came up the lane with you, Anne?
Gilbert Blythe. I met him in Mr. Barry's orchard.
I didn't think that you and Gilbert Blythe were such good friends that you'd stand for half an hour at the gate talking to him.
We haven't been. We've been good enemies. But we have decided that it would be much more sensible to be good friends in future. Were we really there half an hour?
Are you sure you'll be happy, Anne, staying at Green Gables and teaching at the school?
I'm sure, Marilla. God's in his heaven, all's right with the world.
In Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, Anne was played by Barbara Barnes, Marilla by Susan Engel, and Matthew by Shorn Baker. Diana was Joanne McInnes, Rachel Lynde, Anne Beach, Gilbert Blythe, Robert Harper, and Aunt Josephine, Shirley Dixon. Josie was played by Colleen Prendergast, Ruby by Sarah Wateridge, Jane by Amanda Gordon, and Miss Stacy by Adjua Ando. Mr. Phillips was Kim Wall, Mrs. Barry, Alice Arnold, Mrs. Spencer, Janet Moore, and the station master, Johan Meredith. Other parts were played by members of the cast. Anne of Green Gables was dramatized by Marcy Cahan and directed by Sally Avens.